Hey everyone, welcome to Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, along with my partner in crime, the one, the only, Chris King. Welcome to Friday, everybody. And it's a very exciting Friday because we got a lot of stuff going on this weekend with a lot of good college basketball. We've got the NFL, of course, championship games on Sunday. And some interesting things, if you're a fan of racing, is the 24 hours of Daytona, which is the Rolex. It's a pretty cool event, and so a little bit of everything this weekend, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best weekends of the year, and I guess leading up to Super Bowl week in a couple of weeks, nobody's going to watch the Pro Bowl next week, I don't think. But it should be a good weekend all around. I would say for people that are fans of sports like us.
Yep. Those of us who do what we do because we got to do it and we enjoy it. All right, before we get started, we have a guest, and I'm going to tell you a lot about him in just a minute. But first, we have a ton of sponsor information that you're going to want to know. It's in the show box below, but before we go there, let's go here. And that is BetMGM. They are one of our sponsors. They're big fans of Winners and Whiners. Now, here's what BetMGM has for you. Here's what you do. You head over to BetMGM Sportsbook. You select the states that you're in, you hit the registration button, enter your verified code, which of course is the promo code below, which is VIDEOWINNERS when they ask for it. And then you read the offer's terms, conditions before setting up an account. You finish the process, set up your account on the sportsbook, make a deposit of at least $10, place your first real money wager on any sport of your choice. If you win, which we hope you do, you get your winnings and a little bit extra. Now, should you bet and lose, you'll be given a free bet equal to the value of your stake. The maximum on that would be $1,000. The free bet, is credited to your account within 24 hours of the time you wagered, and the bet will expire 7 days after being issued the account, and it cannot be withdrawn for real cash. Now, the link is in our show box below. You must be 21 years or older to participate. And if you live in the area of Arizona, New Jersey, New York, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the District of Columbia, and Wyoming, you will be available and eligible to be able to be part of that. And as we always say, always wager responsibly. Now, don't forget that Caesars has a deal. Now, Caesars' deal is the same deal in New York, and we welcome Louisiana to this new party. They have the same deal in both New York and Louisiana, which is when they'll match your bet up to $1,500 when you deposit $50 or more. You have to use the bonus code. In this case, as you can see on the screen there, it's different. And by the way, in all of the other Caesars jurisdictions, which we all know about, basically they're going to match you all the way up to $1,001. Okay, so lots of things going on, all in the show box below. Remember that those of you who live in the state of Louisiana, today is your first legal day to be part of the wagering business legally on your sports apps in the state of Louisiana. So as we said before, you must be 21 years of age to participate. And as always, folks, we ask you to, by all means, bet responsibly. Okay? All right. Now, our guest is someone who I've known for about a decade. His name is Bachelor. He has one of the most entertaining and most interesting programs you're going to find. It's the Bachelor Pad. I've been honored to be a guest on a number of his shows there. And we decided, you know what? We need a little Friday fun. And who else to talk NBA, college basketball, and of course, the NFL than our guest, Bachelor. welcome to the group.
Jim, it's a pleasure to be on with you and Chris. Thank you so much for inviting me. And just one quick correction. It's the Bachelor News Radio Network now, but but it's been so long. You got the Bachelor part in correctly, and that's fine.
Well, my apologies to you on that. It is the Bachelor Radio Network, and you've got content, entertaining content all the time, and we're here to promote. So look, we'll give you plenty of time for shameless plugs here, my friend. No problem. And I say shameless because that's what I say about it. I didn't say you said it that way or anybody else. I'm the one who enjoys.
That's Jim's middle name, Jim Shameless Williams.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Jim is allowed to do it when he comes on. He comes on and talks sports and politics when he's on my show. So I appreciate it.
Well, it's always back to pay the love to the Bachelor. All right, LA. We're going to take a look at some college now. Chris is an expert here at college basketball, among other things. But we tend to stay away from the big stuff. We like to play in the mid majors and show people, some love in the mid major conferences because everybody, pays attention to the ACC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the Power 5 conferences. We tend to play more in the mid majors because we like to give some publicity to them and to give some love to those folks. So,
unless we're fading teams like Nebraska because they always find ways to blow games.
Especially lately in football too. So
yeah, they're consistent across the board there, which is it's not harking back to the days of when Nebraska had some pretty phenomenal teams there when Tom Osborne was coaching. But that just goes to show how old I am. So
Bob Devaney too.
Well, that's true, Bob Devaney. You jumped behind me. So all right, fair enough. Okay, we're gonna throw some stuff up here. LA, feel free to chime in if you like. Okay, here we go. We're gonna go out to the beautiful. Is this one in Boston or Philly?
This is in Boston.
Okay, we're going to Boston, where we're going to get a matchup of the Ivy League, the Crimson and the Quakers.
Right, and Harvard favored by 4 at home, Jim. The Quakers 7-12. It's been a tough year for Steve Donahue. Meanwhile, Tommy Amaker, everybody knows what he's done in his college career. I'm sure, LA, you remember him down on Tobacco Road down there at Duke, and then going on to Michigan and everywhere else. Harvard 7-2 at home. The Quakers just 1-8 on the road this season. And strangely, they struggled on defense. They're 312th in scoring defense, giving up 74.6 points a game. They're 299th in field goal percentage. Opposing teams shoot 51.6% inside the arc, 34.4% from three-point range. Harvard's taken 4 of the last 5 meetings between these teams. Penn is 1-4 against the spread, and the last 5 as an underdog. They're 0-4 in their last 4 as an underdog on the road. On top of that, they're 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 period on the road. Harvard 6-2 at home in their last 8 after 3 or more games on the road. They're coming in off a loss at Cornell. And they're 5-2 in their last 7 after a straight-up loss. I mean, I like Harvard. It seems to always be Harvard, Yale, Penn, and Princeton is the 4 teams you always talk about in the Ivy League, their protracted conference tournament. But now with Penn out, you have to wonder who's going to slip in there. I think we can say it's probably not going to be Dartmouth. And this one, I do like Harvard. They play good basketball at home, and with Amaker leading the way, it's hard to argue with that kind of experience.
LA, does that surprise you that Tommy Amaker's done such a good job as a coach?
No, not surprised at all. I mean, as Chris mentioned, look at his pedigree. I mean, where he comes from. It's interesting enough that a lot of those guys from those early or almost early Mike Krzyzewski teams that had the success have moved on. Johnny Dawkins, some of the other ones have moved on and become coaches other places. But not surprised. Tommy Amaker has always been a good coach. He was a great player. He understands. And guards tend to be better coaches anyway. They're floor generals. They're always on the floor, understand the game. He had the early success when he went to Harvard, so I'm not surprised that Tommy Amaker is doing quite well. And, they had a tough loss against Colorado State not too long ago by 7 on the road and then Arizona. So they picked it up the last couple of games, I think 3 or 4 games there. And I'm not surprised that they're favorites, and I can see them winning.
Funny you mentioned Colorado State, because coming up next on the panel is
Colorado State. The Rams are favored by 13.5 at home over UNLV. We were just talking about this a few minutes ago. UNLV coached by Kevin Kruger in his first year. Of course, he's the son of Hall of Fame coach, or soon-to-be Hall of Fame coach, I imagine, Lon Kruger. UNLV 11-9. He's had a tough time trying to take over with the mess that TJ Otzelberger left when he bolted. Meanwhile, Colorado State under Nico Medved, who is down here at Furman, is 16-1. They're 10-0 at home. UNLV is just 1-4 on the road. And Jim said he saw Colorado State play the other night in their win over. Was that the Nevada game?
Nevada.
Yeah, over Nevada there, where they won by 11. The Rams, they're very good on the offensive end of the floor. They are 38th in scoring offense at 78.5 points a game. They shoot 50.2% from the floor, which is fourth in the country. 57.9% from two, which is in the country. They're 19th in three-point shooting. And unlike some of the teams that we're talking about in the Mountain West, like we're looking at you, Boise State, Colorado State knocks down free throws, seventh in the country at 79.7%. Meanwhile, UNLV is at 208 scoring offense at 70.3 points a game. They shoot 42.2% from the floor, 49% from two, 32.3% from three. UNLV's 1-7 in their last 8 on the road. They're 0-6 in their last 6 as an underdog, and 0-4 in their last 4 as a road underdog. Colorado State 8-3 in their last 11 against teams with a winning straight-up record. Like Jim said in the pre-show when we were talking, Colorado State's lone loss was to San Diego State. I think we can all agree that UNLV is not San Diego State by any stretch of the metrics, and I think Colorado State should win this one rather convincingly. I like what Medved's done in Fort Collins.
LA, one of the things that Chris and I lament often is these schools where kids, they just don't know how to shoot free throws anymore. I mean, that was something back in the day, you spent hours shooting free throws. And right now, what was it? Chris had a stat. There's only 3 of the top Power 5 teams, not conferences. 3 of the top Power 5 teams are in the top 20 in free throw shooting in the country. I mean,
yeah, it's actually now it looks like it's down to 2. I see Villanova is still number 1, and Utah is number 6, and then after that, it's all mid majors all the way down. Texas comes in next at 24th.
So, I don't. That's something I don't understand. That we know that the coaches used to teach it. We know that. I remember sitting watching John Thompson and, Georgetown and in practice, and they'd make each guy would have to shoot 100 free throws before they left the court. And if they didn't hit about half of them, John would chase them around till they did. But I guess that's just not the way they do things anymore.
Well, real quick, just to the point of Colorado State, I like them in this game. They've had a lot of quality wins over Mississippi State from a Power 5 and San Diego State, Utah, Alabama game was canceled. I'm sure they would have played well in that one. But the bigger picture to your point, Jim and Chris, fundamentals. Guys don't understand. They don't like to do the things. And I don't want to sound like an old stogie or anything, but do the fundamental things. And part of it is shooting free throws, practicing. I mean, they don't want to pick and roll. They don't want to play D. They don't want to get layups. They want to shoot threes and jump in the air high and that kind of thing. Not all of them, but some of them. So free throws is a part of that. I'm not surprised that those numbers reflect just all of basketball at this point, because they don't really shoot free throws as good as they can when they get to the next level in the NBA.
True.
So I'm not surprised at that at all. And by the way, when I play a little hoops, I wasn't the greatest person, but if we missed some free throws and missed some layups, we were doing suicides and laps and everything else. So,
or running the bleachers or the stairs or something else.
Yeah.
Remember those days.
I had at 5'7", I had a very brief basketball career. I played at Chamberlain High School. I was the 13th man on a 12-man team. And I did get into one game against Winter Haven High School. And Winter Haven High School at the time was home to a gentleman by the name of Otis Birdsong. And some of you may remember. If you don't, Google the name Otis Birdsong. Anyway, there was only like about a minute and a half left in the game. And so I was in the game. That's the reason, garbage time. That probably should have been the name on the back of my jersey was garbage time. But anyway, long story short, I was out there and I lost Otis. Now, Otis is 6'4". It's hard to lose a 6'4" person, but I lost him. And all of a sudden, I felt a knee in my chest. And I went flying about 6 feet across the court. And it was Otis. He was going up for a layup, and I just happened to be in the way. I actually got to go to the free throw line. I hit both my free throws. So I scored 2 points on Otis Birdsong. Now, he scored 6 points on me, but I scored 2 on him. That's only in a minute and change that was left in the game. But that's my career. It lasted not very long and wasn't very memorable. But Otis is Otis, and he's a good guy. Anyway, speaking of basketball in the next level, let's move over to the NBA and see what's going on with the games on the hardwood in the association tonight.
Yeah, we got the Hawks hosting the Celtics. If you talk about a couple of teams that are bipolar this season, I don't think you can look at two better examples than the Celtics and the Hawks. These teams are completely inconsistent. Boston's 25-24. Atlanta's 22-25. Atlanta has won 5 in a row. Of course, that comes on the heels of a lengthy losing. On the plus side, the Hawks are actually healthy, which is something that they haven't been in quite a while, where that massive COVID outbreak that took out seemingly everybody worth anything on their roster. Their only missing pieces tonight could be Danilo Gallinari, who's out with or questionable with an irritated eye, and a DeAndre Hunter, who is questionable with discomfort in his back. Atlanta, 7th in the league in scoring offense, 111.4 points a game. They're 9th in field goal percentage. They're 3rd in three-point shooting. Boston is 19th in scoring offense. And that's something I don't understand, LA. When you've got Jason Tatum and you've got Jaylen Brown and you've got Marcus Smart, what's going on with the Celtics that they're not scoring any points?
I think the problem with the Celtics is twofold. Number one, they don't have a lot of depth on this team. And number two, they have 2 similar players. They got 2 wing guys that can, they're not guys that, how do I say, can beat you off the dribble and pass it off for an easy layup. They're guys who can beat you off the dribble. They're guys who run the fast break, get out on the wing. So one side of me says maybe you trade one and get something back to add some size and a different type of player. You definitely need a point guard who can say, I'm going to distribute this. Or you add to those guys. You help those guys, you add. And I think it's probably the latter. You don't want to give up talent because they're similar players. You just need a point guard to direct that offense, to direct that traffic. I think that's the problem with the Celtics. The Hawks are I thought they were a year away. I think they blossomed last year, but they're really not that team from last year. And they're going through some growing pains. And Trae Young is, they're calling fouls and offensive fouls against them and all those type of things. They're going through some growing pains. So I think that's the reason that the Hawks are struggling, and certainly the Celtics have 2 great players. They need a point guard that's going to help them distribute and deliver down the court.
Yeah, it's clear that Dennis Schroeder is not the answer at the point as far as that goes.
No. He's a good player, but he doesn't command it like Rondo did. Like, okay, this is what we're going to run. Schroeder's a good player, good defensive player, but he's not that type of guard that these 2 wing guys need to find.
The trade deadline's not that far away. LA, what if you mentioned point guards? Is there anybody out there that you think that Boston could get?
I mean, I just mentioned him. Bring him back. He's been bouncing around all over the league. Listen, Rondo, say what you want. In the regular season, struggles a little bit. He's not the greatest perimeter shooter, but playoff time, he's proven. He's done it, and he did it with the Celtics. He did it and helped the Lakers. He's done it all over the place. There's a few other guards out there, but he would be at the top of my list if you can get him. I don't know what would go into what he's got in terms of his deal, but I certainly look at a guy like him.
Well, you're right. I mean, I could see him coming back to Boston. And, if you go back in time, there are a lot of guys who, ran that same point position that really, a lot of people thought were past their prime. But, as long as you're a field general on the court, you can really you can make it work. And look at how long John Stockton stayed out there.
Right.
And, a lot of people say, well, he's lost a step. He's lost this. Yeah, he may have lost a step, but how come he keeps winning games and you don't? So there were a lot of people that going back in Boston, even all the way back to Tiny Archibald.
Right.
And Dennis Johnson. Both those guys played that position. And really, did they score a lot of points? No, but they made sure everybody else did.
Right. I mean, if you look at teams out there that are really struggling, like Orlando, if you look at a guy, I mean, he's a younger guy, not as experienced, but you look at a Cole Anthony or someone who has that energy, who can either get a shot and kick out to those guys, or be able to run the offense. Because you both know, Chris and Jim, in the NBA, it's all about the half court. What do you do in the half court? Teams are not going to let you run up and down the court. It's about playing the half court. Can you execute your offense in the half court? And that's what Boston needs to be able to do. But the only way to do that is to have a solid point guard.
Absolutely. All right.
Well, I have a question that's not on topic of this game particularly, but we've heard rumors about how the 76ers want James Harden and they want to package Ben Simmons in a deal. Which one of these teams why would Brooklyn want to take on Simmons over Harden, given the fact that the nucleus that they have right now?
Well, as a Sixer fan, I would take that deal in a minute, not just because of Harden and the talent that he brings, that he's going to open it up even more for Embiid if he's on the court, if Harden joins him. But Philly screwed this up so much with Ben Simmons. The man, I call it peanut butter sandwich, was at the end of the playoffs last year. Jim, I've used that on the air. That means when you eat peanut butter, sometimes it gets in your throat, you choke a little bit.
Right.
Ben Simmons was peanut butter sandwich last year, and he said he didn't think he could play here. He told the 76ers organization,
Right.
I don't want to be here anymore. That's the time you move him. Now, who's going to take him? The big salary, the headache, all the media frenzy. If he comes to your city to play, they blew it. And now they're going to have to, pay him and say, go away. Or they come to some agreement to buy out some of it. He takes a little cut and he walks away. But if anything's going to happen with him, I just don't see it during the regular season. I see it in the off season. And I'm going to tell you, if this GM doesn't get it right, then he might be looking for another job.
And speaking of point guards that Daryl Morey had issues with, let's talk about John Wall. Could John Wall go somewhere? And would he help a team like Boston?
I don't see. Ben Simmons is a talent. Like, you don't get a Magic Johnson type guy that size who can handle the ball, but even rebound better and be as dominant if he wanted to be, as inside. He can post, he can do all those things, but he just never developed at the free throw line, like you guys said earlier, and his perimeter game. With John Wall, before all the injuries, yes, someone would take him. He was rumored being swapped out with Russell Westbrook with the Lakers. I can't trust John Wall. He hasn't played enough. So if I'm a GM, I don't want him. I know Morey and his issues with players and point guards, but I wouldn't touch. I go nowhere, John Wall, just because of the injury. I think he had 21 points in average last year, but he played like 40 games or what, 30 games. So I don't want that. Especially he's old. I think $43 million. So,
That's true.
that's a lot.
That's
And what do you think about Westbrook? Why do you think he's actually a fit in Los Angeles, or do you think that that's just a train wreck?
So Russell Westbrook, the Lakers should have known what they were getting into. He's not going to shoot for a high percentage. He's an energy guy. He's going to give you 150 trillion% up and down the court. He can rebound. He's a triple-double machine. But he's not going to be the guy that's going to knock down shots. He struggles even more at the three-point line. And the other thing about Russell is sometimes it takes him like a second half to really understand a system when he goes to a new system. So he may play well after the All-Star break, but the problem is he just needs to kind of get out of the way now. He's missing shots. He's missing defensive assignments. And with this defensive coach, if you miss defensive assignments, you're not going to play a lot. Just ask the big fella. I can't think of his name. They call him Superman. He plays for him.
Oh, Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard. He doesn't get a lot of playing time because he misses assignments. But LeBron being the de facto GM wanted Russell. And if they knew, Pelinka and those guys knew what they should have known what they were going to get with Russell. So they're stuck with him. No, I don't see, who's going to take him again. He's a $44 million guy. He's owed a bunch of money, and he struggles wherever he's gone.
Ellie, you brought up a good point, and that is when you're in the middle of, the trade situation, a lot of times, if you want to move somebody, the teams are going to say, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll take this person, but you got to eat, 50, 60, 70% of that guy's salary. And that's where you find out how much they really want to move somebody. If you're willing to eat that salary just to get rid of them, then you might find some takers. But as you said, at $44 million, that's a pretty big sandwich to eat. That's almost as tough to swallow as your peanut butter sandwich.
So, and if you're following anything, and these GMs talk all the time,
sure.
The other team that you're trying to trade them to will be negotiating from a position of strength.
Sure.
You know you want to get rid of Russell, so here's what you're going to get now. It's sort of like the Aaron Rodgers thing, in that situation. But I like Russell's energy. I like that he's probably the hardest working guy in terms of just trying to get up and down and try to make plays. But he doesn't shoot the ball well. He turns the ball over entirely too much for me. And you can't have either of those going into the playoffs.
Nope. Where are we going next from Atlanta, Boston?
Phoenix.
All right.
The Suns, everybody knows how well they played for Monty Williams. And, this is a team that had been a dumpster fire for, a decade. They're favored by 8.5 over Minnesota. The Timberwolves playing the second game of back-to-back. They lost at Golden State last night. Here's your consolation prize. Now you get to go play Phoenix. I feel bad for Minnesota to have played these teams back-to-back like that. Phoenix 19-5 at home. Minnesota, they score a lot, but they're not very effective or efficient, I should say. They're 24th in field goal percentage. They're 22nd in three-point shooting. Now you got to face a team in the Suns that's third in scoring offense. They lead the league in field goal percentage. They're sixth in three-point shooting at 36.3%. And they're also good on the defensive end, ranking sixth in scoring defense. They're third in field goal percentage defense and fourth in three-point defense. Now, I know there's a bunch of pieces that are potentially missing tonight for the Suns. I'm just going to take a quick look at the updated injury report from the league that says, let's see. DeAndre Ayton's going to be out with an ankle sprain. Jay Crowder out with a wrist injury. JaVale McGee's out with a sore knee. Cameron Payne out with a wrist sprain. And then, of course, Dario Saric and Frank Kaminsky have been out for a while. So has Abdel Nader. Minnesota, I see D'Angelo Russell is questionable with a shin. Even if the Timberwolves are at full strength, do you think that they can battle with the Suns here in LA?
I think so. Listen, I watched Minnesota a few times. I saw them last night against Golden State. And the team is loaded with talent, young talent. I mean, you look at D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards could fly through the roof. I mean, Carl Anthony Towns. I mean, they have a lot of talent on this team. The problem is two things. They're young, so they're kind of feeling their way through. I do think they can make the playoffs, but they don't play defense consistently. Too many, they don't rotate fast enough. Golden State, I know it's Golden State, and they pass the ball well. They're one of the best passing and assist teams in the league. But Minnesota has to learn if they're lacking maturity is on the defensive end. They can score with anybody. D'Angelo Russell can, when he was with the Lakers and other stops, he can play. And like I said, Karl Anthony Towns, if he decides to play inside, he can be dominant. You saw last night he was dominating Golden State inside with Mooney and those guys. But I think they can win this game. I don't know if they will. I mean, even with those guys still being out, you still got Chris Paul. Devin Booker put up 43 or so the other day. I like the fact that Phoenix picked up Bismack Biyombo. That helps them up in the front court. So they still got the pieces. They still remember this is the team that went to the finals last year. So they played without guys before. They can beat Minnesota, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota steals one. Minnesota's 1-2 against Golden State, so I'm sure they can at least go toe-to-toe with Phoenix.
That might have been the first time I've ever heard anybody say that it was a good move that somebody picked up Bismack Biyombo.
Absolutely. Listen, this guy was off. He wasn't even in the NBA. His father passed away, unfortunately. They needed a guy. They still haven't signed. When you look at what they need to do, they still haven't signed Aiden and, being hurt. So they need to get that situation straightened out. So they needed some help with McGee being in and out. And so they bring him in and he gives them some size and he can get up and down the court and he'll get some putback points as well.
Now, LA, if you were a GM, now we saw DeMarcus Cousins, he was in Milwaukee, now he's in Denver. Would you pick up Boogie Cousins and put him on that Suns team right now?
I like Boogie Cousins. I think he's been misunderstood in the early part of his career. He was overweight and he really didn't take it seriously. And it's something about being out of the league and then coming back in and you kind of, you want to eat again. So, yeah, I mean, that's win-win. They'll probably sign him for a minimum or something like that, bring him in terms of playing for them and see what they can get out of him for the rest of the year. But, he's going to give you some rebounds. He's a very good shooter, even from the outside. So I like that move.
I got one for you, LA. Speaking of LA, what do you think the chances are that the Lakers make a coaching change before the end of the season?
Ooh. I'm torn with that one, Jim, because, listen, this is a defensive coach on a team that doesn't play defense.
Right.
So that's strike one. Right.
Yeah.
They're at the bottom. And it's not even about the age. They're just not. They don't want to play defense.
Right.
And the team was put together for offense anyway, which again I don't understand what Pelinka was thinking. So I can see if they're under 500 now. They stumble into the All-Star break, get a bad start after the All-Star break. Yeah, I can see him going. However, LeBron's teams and the Lakers don't tend to do that all the time. Mm-hmm. I could actually see them, riding it out, especially if they feel, well, I mean, we're going to be in a playing game or we're not making the playoffs. Let's ride it out, make the decision, and then get a search going. So I'm not trying to shadow the fence.
No, yeah.
I can see either scenario.
All right. I personally think it's a coin flip. I mean, basically.
But now, LA, is it Vogel's fault that this team is bad, or is it Pelinka's fault for putting this team together?
I think it's Pelinka and LeBron. Again, let's not Magic Johnson got Paul Westhead fired. Right. Michael Jordan didn't want Doug Collins anymore. He wanted Phil. I mean, LeBron is, he's the other GM.
Right.
If LeBron says, I want this guy, what is Pelinka going to say? Okay. So I think they both got this wrong. Never should have got Westbrook. You should have never got rid of D'Angelo Russell. I like Poole. I like some of the other pieces they got coming off the bench. I like Anthony. I think they should put him in the starting lineup, really. But they made too many moves. They got rid of two great defensive players for offense. And now you can't stop anybody. And you're asking LeBron to give you 34 and 7 every night. And, playing the 5 and all these different things out of position. And here's the real key. AD. I've said all the time, wherever he's been, if he stays healthy, the teams win. When he was healthy and when they were in the bubble and they won the title, he was playing well. He can't stay. He's out, I think, now for another 4 weeks with the wrist now.
Right.
So he is the key. If he's healthy and playing the way he can play, they win. If he's hurt, Lakers go nowhere.
They may not even be the best team in their own building.
That's what I was just going to ask next. Which team do we think is going to make a deeper playoff run if they make the postseason at all? The Clippers or the Lakers?
Well, it depends on. I don't know what the status is of the Clippers to star players when they're coming back. But listen, they've been doing really well without them. I mean, they overcame a deficit of 35 points a few games back and won, and they essentially have the same record. I mean, if you look at the standings, and I mean, they're both on the outside looking in right now. But I mean, the Clippers are 25 and 25, and the Lakers are 24 and 25, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, it's a toss up. I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers do make it and the Lakers don't. And that's not the Laker way either. So.
You know what, LA? I was telling Chris the other day. I think I'd rather go out and watch UCLA and USC play if I was in Los Angeles these days.
And they're both playing pretty well. They're
That's
pretty
right. I'd wander out to Westwood and see them play, or maybe go down to downtown and watch USC play.
That's right.
Anyway, let's move on to the NFL. We have a interesting championship weekend after what easily was one of the most entertaining Final Fours that I've seen in a long time. So let's pop over and see what's going on here on the NFL side.
Well, quick, Jim. Ryan points out that this Lakers team reminds him of the Karl Malone and Gary Payton Lakers back at that team that went to the finals and lost to the Pistons that had, well, pretty much nobody.
No, that's disrespectful to the Karl Malone and Gary Payton
Lakers. Right. It's not nice. Come on.
But yeah, if we'll talk about the AFC Championship first. Of course, that game's going to be the first one on Sunday afternoon from Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Unfortunately for everybody, the Cincinnati Bengals on the road to face the Chiefs. Cincinnati now 12-7 with their 2 playoff wins. The Chiefs are 14-5. Kansas City 9-2 at home. Cincinnati 6-3 on the road. Now, you might not remember these teams met in Week 17. The Bengals won 34-31 at home as a 3.5-point underdog. In that game, Evan McPherson kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired to give the Bengals victory. That seems to be a trend because that's what happened last week at Tennessee for Cincinnati as McPherson drilled the field goal as time expired to give the Bengals the win over the Titans to get them here. Meanwhile, we all know how Kansas City got here. We won't talk about it anymore because we've beaten the overtime statute into the ground. Cincinnati was 7th in the league in scoring offense in the regular season at 27.1 points a game. They were 7th in passing offense at 259 yards a game. They don't run the ball that much. They're 23rd in rushing offense at 102.5 yards a game, despite having Joe Mixon in the backfield. They're going to have to deal with the Kansas City defense. That's 8th in scoring defense at 21.4 points a game. They're 27th against the pass, 251.4 yards, and 21st against the run. Everybody knows Kansas City's offense runs through Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce. They were 4th in scoring offense at 28.2 points a game, 4th in passing offense at 281.8 yards a game, and 16th with the run. Cincinnati 15th in scoring defense, 26th against the pass, 5th against the run. One interesting stat for you, Jim. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs became the second team to score 40 points in back-to-back playoff games with their win over Buffalo on Sunday. Do you know who the other team was?
Buffalo.
Okay, what year?
One of the Kelly years. I'm going to go with 89?
Close. The 90s Bills when they
98.
beat Dan Marino 44-34 in another game where Paul McGuire was sitting up in the press box probably drinking beers.
Yeah.
And then they beat the Raiders, of course, in that so close AFC title game.
Yeah.
1-3.
89, huh? I keep saying, LA, that Cincinnati to me is a year away. I'm not being disrespectful to them on getting here, but Burrow's got sacked 9 times last game. Okay, I'm going to say it, and if I upset some Cincinnati fans, I'm sorry. Did Cincinnati win that game against Tennessee, or did Tennessee lose that game? Because to me, Tennessee lost that game.
Well, as a Steelers fan, I have a
ambivalent. Yeah,
I don't have a dog in this fight at all because we lost to both of those squads, and
right.
I guess I would rather see Kansas City because Cincinnati's in our division.
Right.
But I'll say it. I think Vrabel and the quarterback lost that game. Vrabel, you score a touchdown early in the game. You're at home. You go for a 2-point conversion. First of all, number one.
Right.
Number two, you make all of these changes and concessions and doing all these different things, making sure you get home court. So the best running back in football can play for you, and yet you don't run them that much. And his backup had 4 carries for 60 yards or something.
Right.
You put it in Tannehill's hands? It's so. I have respect for Burrow. He scares me in that division. Mm-hmm. And Chase and Boyd and Higgins and all of these guys they have and Mixon on offense. But Tennessee clearly peanut butter sandwich that game. They really blew it. And Vrabel it's nice when you do it in the regular season, a fake punt and stuff, but some of the stuff he does, I just shake my head. And Ryan Tannehill is not the guy that's going to get you to a Super Bowl. He's a little bit better than Carson Wentz, in my opinion, but he'll never be, that guy that when you need that 2 or 3 plays in the game to, that drive late, I'll take Jimmy G. You see what Jimmy G's done late in the game, Tannehill looked like the Tannehill of the Dolphins in that game. So I think Cincinnati didn't win the game. I think Tennessee gave it away.
Right.
And to your point, like you said, LA Foreman had 4 carries for 66 yards, and you watch Tannehill the first play from scrimmage. He goes out there, and everybody knew where he was going to throw the ball. They got read for an easy pick. Then they drive down the field. They run the ball for 60 or so yards on that first drive in the second half, and you get first and goal, and Tannehill tries to throw again, and it's an interception. The Titans ran for 140 yards. They averaged 5.2 yards a carry. Why wouldn't you run the ball?
And you just set up that Cincinnati defense. If you go away from the run game, they got guys who can get after the quarterback, which puts pressure on Tannehill. He's trying to force the ball. Listen, I know it's a pass league and a quarterback league, but I was very shocked and surprised in a little way that Tennessee got away from that. Tennessee's one of the few teams like the 49ers that know who they are. We're going to run the ball, play action and that kind of stuff, jet sweeps and things of that nature, but nothing real fancy. And they just went away from it. They just said, here, Cincinnati, we sacked your quarterback 9 times, but we want to give you the game anyway.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, LA, I sent a text to Brian Billick, and Brian sends me back a text and says to me, Ryan Tannehill is no Trent Dilfer. And he said to me, I texted back, I go, Trent Dilfer, huh? And he said, Ryan Tannehill, he goes, what you want is a quarterback who may not be able to win you a game. But what you want is a quarterback who may win you a game, but isn't going to lose you a game. And he said, that's why I said, basically, when he was talking about Trent Dilfer. You could say the same thing for Rich Gannon when Rich was in Oakland. You could say the same thing for Brad Johnson when Brad won that Super Bowl for John Gruden when he was coaching Tony Dungy's team. So there are those guys who can do what you're talking about. Ryan Tannehill clearly isn't one of them.
I wonder if he would have said, if Brian Billick would have said that Ryan Tannehill is no Tony Banks either.
Well, he didn't say. I didn't ask. So he clearly used Trent, evoked Trent Dilfer because Trent Dilfer won him a Super Bowl. So I'm pretty sure that's why. Brian also had a thing for me when he drafted. The kid out of California.
Kyle Bowler.
Yeah, Kyle Bowler. Yeah, Kyle Bowler. He said to me, Kyle can throw the ball 40 yards on his knees. I said, Brian, if he's on his knees,
the play's over.
Why is he gonna throw the ball 40 yards? And he laughed and goes, well, probably not. But I just want to show he's got arm strength there. I can watch. I've seen people with arm strength.
If he was flat on his back, we call him the weatherman because he's looking up at the sky and checking the clouds and everything else. So,
well, Spurrier had a great line about that one his first year of the Bucs, and he afterwards, after the season, he said that he was going to get into horticulture because he studied all the different grasses in the NFL and he could figure out which one was the best turf to use. Because he spent all of his time face first on the turf. But no, Tannehill is, to your point with Jimmy G. Remember, Jimmy G's got a thumb problem. He's got a problem with a quad, and he's got a shoulder. So you're putting out there with a guy who was like a character out of a Monty Python movie. I mean, it's like he's got nothing, but he still can, dink and dunk his way down there, and do what he needs to do. But it doesn't take a lot of trouble to hand the ball off, which is what Jimmy G does very well.
But back to this one, Ellie, do you think Kansas City's defense can keep up with all those weapons that Cincinnati has? Like you said, with Boyd and Chase and even CJ Uzomah at tight end, and T. Higgins and Mixon, I mean, that's a lot of weapons to try to cover. We saw that Kansas City struggled last week against the Bills. How are they going to handle Cincinnati's attack?
Well, first of all, that secondary is not getting a lot of sleep right now, Kansas City, because of all the weapons Cincinnati has. But I will say this. They just played a few weeks ago, number one. Number two, Kansas City's everybody's forgetting they can get to the quarterback. Now, they all that front four is playing really well, where the back seven can play back a little bit more. We saw that in the first half against Cincinnati. Cincinnati did a better job defensively, keeping Mahomes off the field. So having said that, I think this will be one of those times. Honey Badger's back. He had a concussion last game against your Bills. But he's back, and he really directs that secondary, and he's a ball hawk. He always seems to be around the ball. Sorensen scares me. I don't know how he even keeps his starting job. But I think what will happen is, Kansas City is going to bank on their front four getting the barrel like they did. I think they had 7 sacks in that first game, or something along those lines, and they hope to play a lot of zone. I'm hoping they will play a lot more zone on the back seven because I can't imagine, and coordinators are some of the most egotistical coaches and most egotistical. Chase is killing you in this game in Cincinnati, and they stayed in man press. You can't man press a guy who's got 266 yards in the game against you.
Right.
You got a double team. You can zone the other side and double team him, and then take your chances over the middle. And at that point, you hope your front four can get pressure. That's the only way defensively I think they can do anything against Cincinnati. You got to get at Burrow early. I wouldn't blitz a lot. I try to get to him with the front four, maybe send a corner or a linebacker in the gaps or off the edge. But they got to play a lot more zone with Burrow. They got to try to get to him with the front four and zone the back, especially wherever Chase goes, you better double team that dude.
Let me ask you a quick question. Let me ask
real quick, though. Cincinnati did a good job shutting down Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in the game. Hill had 6 catches, but they only went for 40 yards, and Kelce had 5 for 25. What do you see the Bengals doing to try and repeat that success here? Because they didn't get a ton of heat on Mahomes in that game.
Yeah, the only thing, but see, they were smart about it. You're not. You gotta double team Hill and Kelce. There's no way, especially Kelce. Kelce will kill you over the middle all day. You gotta drop a safety in that spot and make sure you got a linebacker there. Heck, I triple team him. And Tyreek, you definitely gotta use the sidelines. You know, have the good technique, force him on the outside. So if Mahomes gonna make that throw, it's got to be pinpoint. You know, where only his guy can get it. Now he can do that, but that's what you want to do. But see, they have weapons. But Kansas City, what they do so well is they'll line up the wide receiver and run it, or they'll line up their wide receiver in the backyard in the backfield and send their running back out into pass. So they run a lot more formations and movement, but they're a lot more simpler with their 2 superstars. You just need to double team them. And, you know, you got some good guys up front that can get pressure on Mahomes. I don't know if they will, but again, you got to double team Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill.
You know, the question I was going to ask both you guys is, in the game against Buffalo, all right, they chased Josh Allen all over the place. I mean, the fact that Josh Allen, you know, with all due respect to Joe Burrow, who I like, Joe Burrow is no Josh Allen. So I'm thinking they're going to be able to get to him. That's number one. Number two, I absolutely never care about what a team does to a team in the regular season, because the postseason is 100% different. Playing at Arrowhead is not fun ever. It's even worse when you're playing in the playoffs. So, you know, look, I just don't think, as good as Joe Burrow is learning to be, if you just chased Josh Allen all over Arrowhead last week and just couldn't get a hold of him, that's one thing. You're going to get a hold of Joe Burrow. And I just, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just think the Chiefs are going to this is where Cincinnati's Cinderella story ends, I think.
And you don't think that number 15 is going to go even harder at Arrowhead after losing to this team, and they're coming in with their chest stuck out, like they're going to come in there and defeat the champs. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Josh Allen, and the reason why he had so much success is because he's a big 6'5", 240 guy, right?
Right.
Who can run. Yeah. Like he is Ben Roethlisberger hybrid. Like he is 2.0, 3.0. Right. That a guy that size who can get around, who can jump up and go around guys. I don't want to see him do that his whole career because he'll get injured. You got to start sliding a little bit. But Josh Allen is a freak, so it's easier to get Joe Barrow than him. Because with Allen, they run plays for him, and the offensive line, they zone block and run block really good. And then B, like I said, he and Patrick Mahomes both showed, don't let them get outside the pocket, because they wreak havoc outside the pocket.
Right.
If you keep them in the pocket, you got a shot.
Right.
But I'm with you. Yeah. I think that you're going to Arrowhead, and I know you've been in some places before, but Joe, you are going to Arrowhead with Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and all of that. Number 15, it's going to be awfully tough to win.
100%. Hey, real quick before we move on to the NFC, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, since Ben has left, who's going to quarterback there next year?
Like the Sixers, my other team, Pittsburgh, didn't have a plan B, and I blame Ben. And people don't like that, But I've said, Jim, I said this to you a few years. Ben should have retired 5 years ago, probably, maybe even longer than that.
Yeah.
The skills weren't there. Some people think he's wasted some time in terms of championships. I don't know if I go that far.
No.
But they don't have a Mason Rudolph? Really? You really want to go to war with Mason Rudolph?
Or Dwayne Haskins?
Or the kid from Washington? I mean, no, I think what they're going to do is they're going to bring in a veteran guy, and they may even draft a guy. And then Mason and kid that from Washington escapes my name. I mean,
Haskins.
Thank you. One of those guys are going to be odd man out, and I think it'll be him because apparently Tomlin likes Rudolph. They re-signed him for another year or two, so he may be a backup or somewhere in there. But to take it a step further, you just can't listen. They really blew this because you're in the AFC North. In the AFC North with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Right. I'm not Cleveland is whatever. But you still got two teams that are going to be really good. I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins, by the way, to the viewer. He scares me too late in the game. He puts up a lot of numbers, but he's a pick six waiting to happen too. So I would give up anything to try to get a Russell Wilson. Probably would never happen, or someone of that ilk, someone in that level to get it, because you draft a kid out of Pitt. He's what is he going to do? Like you're not going to win. And in Steeler country, it's not about wins. It's not about playoffs. It's about championships. I don't want to go back to the 80s Steelers, Walter Abercrombie and Neil O'Donnell, all these Bubby Brister. No, please.
God, then you can have Lewis Lips again, LA.
Oh, jeez.
You were just talking about Kenny Pickett, the kid out of Pitt.
Right.
No, I mean, there's first of all, they're not going to get him because they're not even close to being where drafting wise.
Right.
But I think they're going to. I agree. I mean, what did Tomlin say in his press conference? He said it right off the bat. He said, "We need a mobile quarterback."
Right.
Okay? As much as I love Kenny Pickett, and I think he will be, a very good young player in the NFL, he's not a mobile quarterback.
Right.
I mean, he can run, but and his fake slide was very entertaining. But he's not the guy. The guy who keeps coming up, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but the guy who keeps coming up as a possible there is Jameis Winston.
I was going to say that too.
Now that I thought about him, and I would like to have Jameis from the Saints days, not from the Tampa days with the 50 touchdowns and 50.
The Sean Payton Jameis. Yes.
Right. The Sean Payton Jameis. But you got to make sure that your offensive coordinator, who I'm not sold on, by the way,
right,
fresh out of college, can work with Jameis, and Jameis got to be healthy also. But we do need a mobile quarterback. He might be a stopgap for now. That's what I'm saying.
He's a placeholder.
Right. But at the end of the day, the Pittsburgh fans, if it's not him, or even if it is, and let's not forget, they need to shore up that defense, and the offensive line's got to play a lot better. If those things happen, then maybe they get back in the playoffs again. I don't know how they got in with the Colts are peanut butter sandwiches, so that happened to help us get in. But if not, they're just gonna have to suck it up and take it. They're gonna have to take one for the team, 7-10 or whatever, and they don't make the playoffs.
Here's one from Daryl thinks that Liberty's quarterback is a possible fit there in Pittsburgh. What do you think?
Malik Willis, he's a dual threat guy.
Yeah, but guys like him, first of all, I don't care about the competition. I care about how you played in the big games. And he struggled against some teams. He threw some picks. He had a good year. But just in the bigger picture, I just don't see any quarterback in this draft that wows me, right? Pickett is good, but the other part of it, to what Jim said, I don't think any of those guys will be there by the time the Steelers draft. So Winston might be the stopgap for now. Keep Mason Rudolph and Haskins and go from there. That might be the way they're going to go.
The only reason Mike Tomlin had a very good meeting with Jameis before Jameis signed with down in New Orleans, and he only had 1 year. I mean, his deal's up now with New Orleans.
Right.
And who knows what what the new regime is going to want to do. They're going to be in on the Russ Wilson thing because they actually have the kind of cap space and other situations that might make it entertaining to get him. So if Russell's and Russell may want to go there, so that makes it interesting. But
the other thing is too. Here's a scenario I was mentioning to a friend and colleague of mine. Derek Carr wanted Pasacci. I don't know if he's going to be the coach there. I don't know if they made any decision now.
They haven't yet.
And he wants, that's his guy. Mm-hmm. So maybe they don't get his guy and he wants out. Pittsburgh gives up some picks and a couple of picks. You bring Derek Carr in. He's not Josh Allen or anything, and that dual threat all the time, but he's a winner. Mm-hmm. And he played well this year. He got him in the playoffs.
Right.
I don't agree with some of the play calling down the stretch against Cincinnati. But Derek Carr I like Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I do.
No question. Let's move on to SoFi. And out at the open park.
What have we seen this before? Obviously, NFC West rivals. San Francisco 12-7, Rams 14-5. San Francisco were road warriors this year, but it seems like everybody in the NFC West was. They're 8-3 on the road, counting the playoffs, and they've won 6 in a row in this series. I mean, they whipped the Rams 31-10 up there in Santa Clara in November, and then of course we saw that Week 18 game where they were down 17-0, and then all of a sudden decided to play football, and the Rams didn't. Of course, we all know the Rams are lucky to be here after last week's second half meltdown against Tampa Bay. You have to wonder if Cam Akers is going to see the ball at all this week after his fumbleitis came back. 49ers 13th in scoring offense, 12th in the passing offense, 7th against with the run. They're going to face a Rams defense that's 15th in scoring defense, 22nd against the pass, but they're 6th against the run. Matthew Stafford leads the Rams offense. They're 7th in scoring at 27.1 points a game, 5th in passing offense, 25th with the run, facing a 49ers defense that's 9th in the league in scoring defense, 6th against the pass, and 7th against the run. And Jim, like I said, you have to wonder, who are we going to see in the backfield for the Rams? I mean, we haven't seen Darrell Henderson in a while.
Yeah.
Michelle didn't really factor in last week. I thought he would see the ball more, given Akers' issues with hanging onto the ball, but yet they kept putting him back out there, and he kept coughing it up.
To me, guys, and I don't know about you, LA, but to me, some teams just match up better. And for some reason, the Giants match up well against the Rams.
You mean the 49ers, Jim?
And, I'm sorry?
49ers.
Yeah.
The Giants.
What did I say? I'm sorry. My apologies. I had a mental break there.
It's Friday.
It is Friday, I think, yeah. But anyway, to me, when last week on Friday's show, we went down the list of players, and when they said Bosa was going to play, I said, that's the key. Bosa playing is the key. Because I knew he could put pressure, on the quarterback. And, Kyle, you got two guys who know each other really well. They coach together. So Kyle and Josh, are good at what they do. Or Sean. Where's John? Where am I trying to? He coached the Rams. What's his first name?
Sean McVay.
Sean McVay. Okay. I'm not going totally insane. I'm close. But, Sean and Kyle dial each other up. I don't know. I mean, yeah, Stafford took them back. That's on the Bucs defense from last week. I mean, it's total stupidity. And that's from a guy who's a great defensive coordinator. But, come on. They didn't play properly in that situation. But can Matthew Stafford win this thing, or are they going to play ugly, which is what the 49ers want you to play ugly, because that's what they make you do. They run the ball, they play keep away, and they did it well in Lambeau. Can they do it one more time at SoFi? I don't know. I think this one might be – the Rams might be able to pull this one out only because they've seen enough of the Giants to maybe figure it out.
You know, it's funny. I was looking just as a side note. They one of the folks in there said, "Bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick." No, he's a pick six waiting to happen. So no Steelers. No part of Ryan Fitzpatrick, please.
Ryan's good
now and then.
Yeah, Ryan's a good guy. Harvard graduate. He's going to make a wonderful broadcaster someday. But
yeah. So hey, Mark Malone was a smart guy too. So and he was. So I digress. I mean, no disrespect to Ryan. And
would you rather have Mark Malone or Cliff Stout?
You.
All right. Well, I can come out of retirement. Why not?
Yeah, please. Anybody but Cliff Stout and Mark Malone.
Yeah,
definitely not Bradshaw's replacements. But it's funny, guys. I picked the Rams and KC in the Super Bowl to start the season. And it still could happen. They still got to win these games to get there, but we'll see. To me, it's more about the quarterbacks. Now, as much as praise I gave to Jimmy G making those late drives and doing that, he still scares me. He still tries to force the ball in the coverage, and that's why they bring in Trey Lance, because of that. He wins some games between forcing the ball and injuries is the reason why they're looking at moving him, and we'll see. Matthew Stafford, I always thought, had a great arm. He's a smart guy. He knows defenses. He just played in god-awful Detroit. And so I thought once they brought him in, okay, yeah, I mean, Sean McVay will get him in the right spot, play calling, and he can make plays. But he had a horrible stretch down the regular season too, throwing all these picks. So it's got to be about which quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes for me. Now, if you look at Jimmy, all he has to do, Jim, like you said, hand the ball off. You got Debo who can play everywhere. And you got a solid defense, especially the front seven, that can get after it and keep you in the game, and you can win 13-10 like you did in Green Bay, even in the snow. And everybody thought, oh, my God, this team from the West Coast can't play in the snow. You run the football, you can play anywhere. And on the Rams side, they need to play better defensively. I mean, I know they got all these players, but they're splash players. But as a unit, they've struggled, especially in the passing game, which favors them because San Francisco don't really throw the ball a lot. I mean, they might as well give Aaron Donald his jacket now. I mean, I'm biased to TJ Watt this year, but Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald. And then Patrick Ramsey and those guys, they bring in the receiver. But I just think it really – go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just saying they brought in Vaughn from down in Denver.
Yeah, Von Miller.
And they brought in Odell Beckham Jr. to give him another weapon. Like Cooper Kupp wasn't enough.
Splash players, they lose a guy, but they still have Jefferson and some, the tight end can play as well, Higsby. So they have the offense. I think will be fine if the defense can get off the field on third down, and that's been their issue all year. This is a game about matchups, like you said, Jim. I thought they were going to beat Tampa. I don't care if Tampa had the full team. Tampa didn't match up against the Rams. I knew they would win that game. But if the defense can't get off the field and Jimmy can go down the field, it's 4 minutes to go in the game and the game's tied or it's close, you can't get off the field on third down, you're going to lose. I don't care if you're playing at home. This team knows you. It's a divisional game in a sense.
Right.
And Shanahan, I trust his play calling more with what he has, more so than McVay. To Chris's point, Cam Akers, Tony Michel, who's going to run the ball? It's just, I think it's more questions on the Rams side. But at the end of the day, it's going to come back to which quarterback plays either the best or doesn't make the most mistakes to win the game.
Right. And you got two teams, I mean, both in Cincinnati and in the 49ers are playing with house money. Nobody expected them to be there. The pressure's on Kansas City. The pressure's on Los Angeles. But if you're going to be a Super Bowl team, you handle the pressure. You'd make the deal. You go for it. So.
And, Stafford, too, real quick, the media talks about how he got over the hump, the drive, 42 seconds, and throws the bomb, the cuff. They kick the field goal. He still got to win.
Yeah.
You're not in the Super Bowl yet. Yeah, you got past Brady and those guys, but now you got to beat a team that's beat you 6 straight times, including the coach, including the quarterback.
Right.
And then you got to win. Then you got to get the Super Bowl, and then they want you to win because they already got there with Carson Wentz and lost. Now you got Stafford. You bring him in to close the deal. So I understand he got over one hump, but he still got a couple of other humps he's got to get over.
There you go. There you go. So who do you like LA in the championship games? The AFC and NFC Championship games.
Well, staying with the NFC, it's gonna be close. I'll give the Rams a slight edge because they're at home at this time. I know they lost at home, but I think Stafford's playing at an even higher level now. He's in the playoffs, and I think they'll just make a couple more plays than the 49ers. 49ers, like you said, playing with house money, but I think it kind of stopped. I wouldn't be surprised they win, but I think the Rams maybe by 3 or 4 points. On the AFC side, I'm just not going against 15. Not at home. I don't care who they're playing. With respect to Chris, I saw Buffalo. I know Buffalo. Josh Allen did everything he could possibly do and left 13 seconds. That's on your coach, by the way.
Right.
Well, it was a poor call by Leslie Frazier at the end. I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah. I mean,
Jim and I have talked all week about how the overtime rules are horrible. I mean, but the bottom line is they could have won in regulation. They didn't. I mean,
right. And now, you got the number 1 total defense in the league. You got to get a stop. You have to get a stop. You hold them to a field goal, then Allen comes back on the field. Maybe he scores a touchdown or field goals, double overtime, but you got a shot. But your defense got to stop them. But I'm going with Kansas City. I can't bet against Kansas City against at home with Mahomes.
Okay, LA, it's time for shameless plugs, my friend.
Oh wow,
it's
shameless plugs.
Shameless plugs. Look, you gotta follow this man. This man, LA Bachelor. He's right there below me. There he is. Okay. He's a fantastic guy. We have a lot of fun with him. He's very knowledgeable. He can talk politics. He can talk sports. Talk a little bit about everything. And he's at the Bachelor Radio Network. Talk about it, LA. Sell it for us, babe.
Well, it's the Bachelor News Radio Network, and I've been broadcasting for over 30 years. And we, like Jim said, we talk about sports, politics, some social issues. We deal with HBCU sports and issues, historically Black colleges, universities. And really the water cooler stuff. We get into everything. We're based on sports, but we have an umbrella of a lot of different things. You can catch the show Mondays from 6 to 8, either on LA Bachelor at YouTube, or you can go to StreamYard and watch it like you guys. And on Thursdays, I actually do 2 shows, but I'll just say between 5 and 8, same thing. You can watch it on YouTube at LA Bachelor, BATCHBLOR, on Thursdays. So we're live Mondays and Thursdays. The rebroadcast, you can watch. We're on Fire Stick, Amazon Fire Stick, on Big Mind Entertainment. You download it there, and you can watch the show. You can also watch it on iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, anywhere you can catch a podcast. You'll catch it there. You can follow us on Facebook at Pad Nation, PAD Nation, on Twitter at Pad Nation, the number 2, on Instagram at LA Bachelor. And if you want to know more about the show and get involved with the show, you can email us at labachelor40@gmail.com, labachelor40@gmail.com. If I can say one quick
sure.
before we go. Just the final thing about the NFL. As an African American, I'm appalled that we went from 8 black coaches down to 1. And Eric Bieniemy, your late Leslie Frazier, Jim Caldwell, Jim, uh, Byron Leftwich, there's a few other people out there. When are you going to get 8 out of 32 was a bad number in itself.
Right.
Now we're down to 1. Tomlin being the only one. You can't tell me, Tomlin doesn't have a tree like Belichick, right?
Yeah.
He came from the Dungy tree.
Right.
And Eric Bieniemy specifically calls the plays. The reason I know, because Andy Reid said it.
Right.
So Matt Nagy, right?
I got to tell you, I can't understand how Eric Bieniemy 4 years ago didn't get a job. Okay, if I was owning a team, and I needed a coach, it damn sure wouldn't be Urban Meyer. It would be Eric Bieniemy. Who do I want with a young kid who just came out in Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence, comes out, star player that he is. Do I want Urban Meyer teaching him to be a pro quarterback, or do I want Eric Bieniemy, who you talk about 15, he built 15. Okay.
I wouldn't mind seeing Lawrence have Leftwich either, because A, Leftwich played in Jacksonville,
Right.
and B, he played quarterback. So I mean, obviously, if you're going to have somebody that would fit there, he would be a good fit.
Well, the other thing with Byron is Byron's younger than Tom Brady. He's 38 years old. Tom's 44.
And he was a solid backup with Pittsburgh for a minute too. And look, they talk about the Belichick tree, and I have respect for Belichick. All of his assistant coaches, including now they're talking about Josh
McDaniels again,
maybe with the Raiders, have losing records except Flores, who they just fired in Miami, with 2 winning seasons. And only because he didn't get along with management, he wanted a different quarterback. They bring in Tua. And I'd be upset too. I'm the coach. You're not gonna give me any input.
I'll tell you what, I would be if that's one of those cases where getting fired might have helped him, because he might end up in New York. We don't know where he's going to end up, but this is a guy who won with nothing, and if you give him a decent team, he's going to take you to the playoffs. So I would be stunned if he doesn't get a job somewhere.
Right. And I have one question from the HBCU perspective. Is Deion Sanders good for the HBCU perspective as a coach, or is all the hype behind him kind of take away from how great some of the historic teams are? Because you remember Eddie Robinson and Grambling, guys like that, and at Southern, all those guys. Those guys that work.
Don't forget my guy Jake Gaither at Florida A&M.
Brings to the table. How do you look at it from your perspective?
And Big House Gaines, of course, in basketball. He coached football too. But it's so many out there. Listen, any positive exposure HBCUs can get is a win. And there's some concern. Even on my show last night, I was talking with a guy. I said, listen, if Deion leaves after his 2 sons, who, by the way, can really play, leave, how's that going to look? It's not a good optic for him. It makes it seem like he was just there for his kids, and then he leaves. But listen, he just got the number 1 talent in the top 100 that's coming to play for him in Jackson State. That is huge. And then you have, Cynthia Cooper is coaching in basketball. You got I'm trying to think of Eddie George is coaching at Tennessee State. So you have a lot of guys coming in. Anything that can bring some positive exposure. You got the NFL, the HBCU combines this weekend that the NFL is part of. Anything that can bring positive exposure to the HBCU is good. And Deion certainly knows talent. I mean, one of the greatest players I've ever seen. But he definitely knows talent. They lost. They got upset in their championship game, but he was there, and he's going to continue to build if he stays there. And I think it opens the floodgates, not just for the positive of HBCU, but hopefully, as we talk about diversity, the diversity in coaching
Mm-hmm.
at the HBCU levels in terms of there and going to other schools.
Well, that's what made the AFL, was they tapped into the HBCU before anybody else did. And you had guys like Al Davis sitting down with Eddie Robinson. You had, Hank Stram and those guys who would go to the universities and meet with the coaches and talk to the players. And they had a pipeline long before the NFL, even tapped into it.
Right.
And of course, in your backyard, I'm a big fan of what Lavelle Moton has done in North Carolina Central. He's done a great job there.
Yeah,
I look forward to see them hopefully make another run to March Madness.
Listen, coaches that we've had him on quite a bit. They've won some big games since he's been there. He's one of the best coaches in the country. I don't care any level. They've made the dance and they've beaten some power fives. It's a shame some of them play in the playing game, or if they're not playing in the playing game, it's Central versus Texas Southern, and then one of them loses, and then they got to play number one Duke or someone else. That still exists. But you're right, Coach. This guy, he's beaten NC State. He's beaten North Carolina. He's beaten Wake Forest. He's beaten a bunch of teams. He's beaten a team in the Big Ten that escapes my thoughts. I think it might have been Wisconsin. But I mean, at that level, he's won in the past, and so it's a lot of guys like that. We again winning and the positive vibes, bringing in that talent is always good for HBCU.
And Texas Southern, another one you mentioned, Johnny Jones. They went down to Florida and beat Florida earlier this season.
That's right. Yeah, Southern's done it. Texas Southern's always got a great basketball program. They're always there, and not to mention, some of the other smaller HBCUs, CIAA, Virginia State, Virginia, and Central State.
A lot of good teams in the SWAC. SWAC always scares people, I know, when it comes to basketball, because those teams run and they will pile up points for you in a hurry.
Right, Alabama A&M and State is always good. As I mentioned, Texas Southern is always going to be there. Arkansas Pine Bluff, they always play well, especially in football. So I mean, the SWAC is, and now with the SWAC, Jim's familiar with FAMU, Florida A&M, and Bethune-Cookman coming to the SWAC. That just makes the SWAC even better with those two historical, institutions.
I'd like to see some of those teams actually get a shot at some of the bigger teams instead of them, papering over and facing some of the teams that they do. I think a lot of those teams deserve it to get national exposure, because I mean, obviously there are teams that's why we talk about majors all the time, because of the fact that everybody overlooks them. But there's a lot of good teams out there that nobody talks about.
And you don't know if you look at what Gonzaga's done, right? They were considered a mid-major. They're number one in the country. They've been there, and they've been in the national championship. They lost to my Huskies, and they've been there up in the top 10 for a long time. Creighton's moving up. You look at some schools like that. Marquette's coming back. Dwayne Wade's old school. I mean, they might be playing in sort of a Power 5, 6, but these are the schools that they're not talking about. So why not an HBCU? You guys, Jim, I'm sure you're familiar with the secret game with Central Duke, and they didn't want to play, and we know why they didn't want to play Central. So those programs either play you at home, so you get some of the the revenue to help your school, or they don't play you at all, especially if they saw you beat one of the Power Fives or you beat them before. So they take you off the schedule.
Yeah. Growing up, I attended a lot of every time Tampa Stadium in Miami at the Orange Bowl. They used to have the Orange Blossom Classic, which was Florida A&M, and they would play Bethune-Cookman. Or in the case of, sometimes we had Tampa U back then before the Buccaneers came to town, and And Tampa University would always play both FAMU and Bethune-Cookman as part of their schedule. Miami, Florida, and Florida State used to play either or. Sometimes they'd play A&M one year. They'd swap off between A&M and Bethune. But now that every game is so important from a standpoint of conferences have got you got to play 9 conference games. It becomes tougher for teams like FAMU and Grambling and others to get matchups. And to be honest, they don't want to play them because they're afraid. What happens if I lose?
And especially now that talent, even with the small guys you talk about, the mid-majors and stuff, where now you get a JUCO or a D2 guy, just go to an HBCU. He can play at the D1 level, maybe because of his grades or whatever. He goes to an HBCU. Now you got 2 or 3 guys who could play at the highest level. They want no part of that because you can't lose to that. It doesn't reflect well for them in their conference.
Right.
But look at the guy like Buddy P with South Carolina State. Their football program has been really good for a long time. They upset Deion and Jackson State. So when you look at it, they lost by a point. But when you look at it, there's always that talent out there at the HBCUs and that determination. So, like you said, when you look at I mentioned Creighton or someone, why not? Why not allow these guys to play? It, number one, you don't want to lose to them.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, if you lose to them, they feel like it's going to hurt them when, postseason, whether it's football. I mean, understand, Deion getting the top pick, this kid didn't go. He had a chance to go to Florida State, Alabama, and one other, and he chose Jackson State. You imagine now what they're thinking?
Clemson was the other school.
Clemson. So, I mean, imagine what, the Nick Sabans and other coaches are thinking like, okay, wait a minute. Now maybe we need to play these guys and so we can show off again why we're Alabama, why we're Clemson, why we're Florida State. But, maybe a change is coming, but I think, if it is, it's a change for the positive.
Let's hope so, LA. Thanks a lot for joining us. Really greatly appreciate it, buddy.
God bless, guys. Jim, I'll talk with you next week.
Sure.
And Chris, I hope to talk with you very soon on my show as well.
Sure, whatever you want, LA. Let me know.
All right.
Thank
you, guys.
Thank you, buddy. Be well. Have a good weekend. All right, Chris. We got a hustle, buddy. We are we're at our 90-minute hour here, and we're pushing Scott and Scott. So let's blow through what we got left. Let's tell you what. Let's hop to the two for the money.
All right.
Here we go.
Yeah, I like the Avalanche over the Blackhawks tonight. I know Nathan McKinnon won't play after he got nose busted up by Taylor Hall. But Colorado, they've won 8 in a row. They beat Chicago earlier this week. Look for Darcy Kemper and the Avalanche to get the win on the road. And sticking with the Colorado mentality, the Nuggets on the road over the Pelicans. New Orleans has a bunch of injury issues. They haven't played well this season. Denver should be at pretty much full strength outside of Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. Then we've got Boston on the road over the Coyotes. The Bruins looking to bounce back after losing in overtime the other night. And our good buddies from Wyoming, they covered earlier this week in the 3-point loss to Boise State. I look for them to go on the road and beat Air Force on the road tonight in that contest in the Mountain West.
All right, let's go for 4 for the money. 4 for the show. There we go.
Yeah, we've got the Heat -7 over the Clippers. Miami, Jimmy Butler is questionable tonight, but the Clippers still don't have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. On top of that, they're playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. They probably used up all their energy rallying from that 35-point deficit to beat the Wizards, and then they had to come back to beat Orlando. We talked about Phoenix over Minnesota already. Pittsburgh, I expect to bounce back after that disappointing showing last night against Seattle where they lost 2-1 in overtime. They faced a Red Wings team that gave up 8 goals to the Blackhawks the other night in an 8-5 loss. And Colorado State, we talked about, they're a very good team. Look for them to beat UNLV.
And time for our menu. the shot in the dark.
Yeah, we said Harvard over Penn at the beginning of the show. The Crimson play well at home. Fresno State, they're a 2-point underdog at home against Boise State, which is surprising given the Bulldogs are 9-0 at home this season. You get Wright State +2 over Cleveland State. That's also at Wright State, so it'll be in Ohio. San Jose State +10 on the road over New Mexico. The Lobos will probably win this one, but I don't see them winning by double digits. They've had their struggles. The Bulls +1 on the road over the Spurs. LA was talking about how the Lakers don't play defense. They're going to play another team that doesn't play defense in the Hornets in Charlotte. Charlotte favored by 6.5. The Lakers playing the second game of a back-to-back. You don't know if you're going to see Anthony Davis. You don't know if you're going to see Ron James. I like Charlotte there. Portland -2 on the road over the Rockets. Houston is just terrible. The Rangers at home +120 over the Wild. The Rangers tanked last night, losing to Columbus. They didn't play Igor Shesterkin. He'll play tonight against Cam Talbot. They're going to have a ceremony for Henrik Lundqvist tonight. Look for the Rangers to ride the momentum and the emotion to a victory there. Dallas at home over Washington. The Stars have won 4 in a row. The Capitals 3-7 in their last 10. And look for the Avalanche and Blackhawks to stay under 6.5. Like I said, they met earlier this week. It was 2-0 game. I don't expect a whole lot of offense here necessarily. Maybe it'll be 3-4, but it'll stay under the number.
Okay. We got time for about 2 or 3 quick questions. So let's get the questions in before we got to jump out of here before Scott.
I saw James asked about, I believe it was James asked about Ohio versus Buffalo. Yeah, UB, they've had their struggles defensively. They're a very good offensive team, but they probably shouldn't be favored in this one. Given how well Ohio's played, I would probably take the Bobcats and the points. And that's saying something because I'm from the area, obviously. Regarding Manhattan and St. Peter's, I don't really like Manhattan. They're 2-4 on the road. St. Peter's is giving 6 at home. The Peacocks are, they're not great, but they've won 5 out of their last 6. Manhattan has alternated wins and losses in their last 6. I would probably take the Peacocks playing at home because they'll ride their defense. They're 61st in the nation in scoring defense at 64 points a game. Meanwhile, Manhattan is 274th in that category. And finally, the Bucks at home. Yeah, they're playing the Knicks. I don't have any faith in the Knicks right now. Latest injury report says, and that's a 10 o'clock start, which is weird, but we're going to do. Rodney Hood's doubtful, but that's it for the Bucks. So you're going to see Middleton, you're going to see Holiday, you're going to see Antetokounmpo. I expect the Bucks to have a little problem with the Knicks just because New York is just seemingly imploding by the day. Tom Thibodeau has to rely on defense, and that's not necessarily going to get it done against the Bucks. Finally, we'll talk about Marist, the Red Foxes at Quinnipiac. They're a 1-point underdog. Granted, Marist beat up on some teams earlier this year. They beat Monmouth by 36, but since then they lost at home to Fairfield and St. Peter's. Quinnipiac had won 3 straight before losing to Miami the other night. I would probably check the Bobcats at home where they're 7-3 on the year. That line's actually gone even now, apparently, at a lot of sports books. As far as I know, there's nobody substance of injury on the injury report. We'll probably ride Quinnipiac in that one.
Okay, everybody. Now, we want to thank LA Bachelor for being our guest today. And we have a ton of stuff. There's a lot of questions out there that still have to be asked. You've got Chris's Twitter handle right there. Just hit him up on Twitter. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer those questions for you.
Yeah, I'll be up all day doing the rest of my work for
right.
Anyway, so
nothing. Yeah, he'll just be sitting around doing nothing. So by all means, just hit him up on Twitter. So anyway, Chris, have a wonderful weekend. You all enjoy your time. Be safe out there. There's a lot of snow coming to the Northeast, so bundle up and be careful. And we will see on Monday when we will know who will be playing in Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. But until then, for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying, have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for watching Just Parlays. We'll be back on Monday at 1:30. Take care, everybody.